Call the meeting to order.
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Mr. D'Amico?
Here.
Ms. DeAndre?
Here.
Mr. Kella? Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Shatina?
Here.
Mr. Walden? Mr. Strong?
Here.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, this is the duly advertised Plan Commission meeting for the City of Joliet for the month of February. We've got two cases that are up before us. Both of them are plats. Both of them are preliminary plats. One of them is a pre-approved extension. The other one is kind of a reconfiguration of an existing plat. First one under consideration is P2-14. It's the preliminary plat of Center Point Intermodal Center at Joliet Subdivision Phase 9. Applicants are Center Point Joliet Terminal Railroad, LLC. The request is the approval of a preliminary plat for a minor subdivision. The purpose is to create 9 industrial lots for current and future development. It has the IT, which is the Intermodal Terminal District zoning category. It's at the northwest of Center Point Way. Size under this plat is 193.93 acres. It currently exists as an industrial business park. Surrounding land use and zoning to the north is industrial with IT zoning. To the south and the west is the same. To the east would be the Audubon Country Club, which has the I-1 zoning. Under site history, Center Point Joliet Terminal Railroad, LLC has petitioned for multiple requests heard and approved by the Plan Commission and the Mayor and Council for the Center Point Intermodal Center at Joliet Development. The majority of the property, the intermodal rail yard, was annexed, zoned to the IT, and approved with an annexation agreement as part of Phase 1 in December of 2008. Phase 2 included all of the Center Point holdings at that time and was approved in March of 2010. Special information, the petitioner is requesting approval of this Phase 9 preliminary plat in order to allow the subdivision and continued industrial development of the 194 acres. There is currently a 405,000 square foot warehouse and distribution building being constructed on Lot 34, which is 30 acres. Lot 39, which comprises 83.2 acres, is also a buildable lot, but there are no plans to develop it at this time or any time in the future. The future subdivision of this lot will also be likely. Lot 38 and a portion of Lot 37 are buildable, but there are no known plans at this time. Lot 32 and 35 will be devoted for private drives to access the buildable areas. The remaining lots, which are 31, 33, and 36, will cover the needed utility easements and the naturalized native wetland plantings, as well as the stormwater detention areas. The building complies with the city's non-residential design standards, and the site will be landscaped and fenced in accordance with the city's zoning ordinance for the IT zoning district. All public improvements will be required as per the subdivision regulations and the requirements of Public Works and Utilities departments. Sewer and water connection fees, sewer surcharge fees, and development impact fees will be required as part of the previously approved annexation agreement. And then lastly, the Community Design Review Board minutes from their meeting of February 6 are attached, and that concludes our staff report.
Thank you. Could we have the petitioner on this item, please?
Afternoon, Chairman, Planning Commissioners. Clayton Thurston with Geotech, Project Manager, Land Surveyor for Center Point. I have nothing else to add to the staff report.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the commission?
I do. Jim, what is the land to building ratio requirement, if there is one? I'm certainly got to be for 405,000 square feet. You got 30 acres, which I'm sure is sufficient. But what is the land to building ratio requirement?
Well, we really don't have one in the IT. What ends up happening is the limit is they can build as much as they can fit in. Usually what dictates the size of the building is the amount of truck and trailer parking needed. That will determine the building moreover than what we would require. Technically, our requirements would be such that we would have our landscape buffers on the perimeter, and if you found a use that didn't need any parking, effectively they could build to the extremes of the landscape easements, but in practicality that won't happen. And so what you find a lot of times in some of these buildings is they actually built maybe a smaller footprint of a building and use the remainder of the land for truck and trailer parking.
I would not want to see what happened at U.S. Steel, where they just kept sticking and building and sticking buildings and sticking. Now, as they matured, you can't do anything with them. No one wants them.
Correct.
There's no real use
Correct.
for them. But I would suggest that we have some kind of a land-to-building ratio requirement. I'm sure 30 acres
Well, and they do. We laid all this stuff out at the time of when we first annexed them in, and we did this IT zoning district, which does have all of the requirements for the berms and the setbacks and the open landscaped areas, and, you know, we in that plan, we dictated where all the container storage would go, because that's very restrictive on there, where that would go. We even identified areas that could go for commercial development as well. So all that's spelled out in that master IT industrial district zoning that we adopted for this Center Point intermodal development.
But you can't cover all the ground.
No, absolutely not. And the interesting thing about this area is, all of the folks in the room know, everybody down there, is that there's a crisscross of utility pipelines, there's open lands, wetlands, creeks, and naturally, you know, you can't build on those, and there's, for wetlands and other things, there's setback buffers, and like I said, we have our landscaping requirements that were spelled out in the IT district, so there are a lot of restrictions in place that are probably more restrictive than, you know, the development like U.S. Steel that they did, you know, 100+ years ago.
Where's this utility? Is there sewer and water there?
Yeah? And Scott, I don't know if you want to talk about.
Yeah, they're extending utilities up off of Center Point Way.
Proper, you got enough you have enough capacity to handle it?
It's all new utilities out that area.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I have one question. Is there anything that they'd be putting there that would either inhibit or affect the Autobahn's functions?
No, probably not. As a matter of fact, it was very interesting because when CenterPoint was first conceived, our big fear that something would happen that would be harmful to the Autobahn. And believe it or not, the Autobahn folks and their board of directors were very, very supportive of CenterPoint coming down here. And their primary reason was every time they build a building, it sort of helps to buffer the noises that emit off-site from, you know, the race cars going around the track. And so they did not want to encourage the continuation of residential development down there because they thought that then there would be, you know, numerous noise complaints and things of that nature. So they were very supportive of CenterPoint buying the property down there. And I do know that at the time I was working with the developer before CenterPoint was even conceived, and they were talking about doing a residential subdivision right out the front gate of the Autobahn, which now has the DeLong company there that loads grain into the containers, and then the brand new railroad tracks are right behind that. And the guy that owned the land at that time was talking about selling it to a residential developer that then would build upper scale, upper quality homes out in that tract of land right out the front gate. And like I say, at the time, the Autobahn folks weren't real keen on that idea at all.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the commission? Any comments or questions from the audience? Please come to the microphone, state your name for the record.
My name's Alejandro Gutierrez, 19544 West Sharp Road. I'm for tabling all from now on, warehousing going up, Center Point light to everybody. They said Baseline Road will be used for all their trucks, taking them out to Arsenal Road, west to I-55 to pick up I-80. They says Laraway Road would only be used for trucks that were coming from warehouse that were in real close proximity to Laraway Road. There's no warehousing on Laraway Road. Truck traffic is terrible. I've had my mirror ripped off my truck going south by northbound trucks. My son's had $3,000 damage done to his vehicle because when the trucks are going down I-80 on the off-ramp to go south, if you're on that inside lane, they'll pull right out in front of you where you can't see, and then they'll take off. They say they need that room to turn, but they don't see it. There's a car there, right? 53 is failing from just about the, I think it'd be the westbound ramp going off to I-80 is failing from there all the way past Arsenal Road. We've got container trucks that are coming down our road because Joliet will not take responsibility for what you guys are annexing. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. If you bring stuff out there, don't you think you should have, after it's built, that you should have policing out there? Since Centerpoint opened up, just last week, I saw one vehicle, police officer, that was looking for trucks coming down Millsdale Road. Now, they put a no truck sign at Millsdale and Brandon. It says weight limit ahead, 12 tons. The weight limit for the 12 tons is when it hits the unincorporated Elwood area. So the way the trucks skirt it is they'll go down to Millsdale and Bridge Road, and they'll turn down the Joliet side of Bridge Road. No truck signs, no weight limit signs, and they get down to Sharp Road. Sharp Road is a 16-foot wide road. It used to be gravel. I own to the center of the road. My deed says from the center of the road to the back property line. I get out there and stop the trucks, and I tell Joliet City Police about it. Oh, you shouldn't be out there trying to stop them trucks. Well, they sure as heck ain't doing it. You people sure as heck ain't saying, well, let's look into this. You guys don't go down there. I travel that road 4 or 5 times a day down 53 coming to Joliet. Is anything going to be done about it? Why don't you tell everybody right now? Because I'm getting tired of the trucks.
Is there anyone here from Centerpoint?
He couldn't make it, so Clayton's here representing Centerpoint. He's their engineer.
We have talked in the past about the signage of them going the wrong way.
Right, and we have done signage. The problem that we have, like, there's portions of Bridge Road that are in the city, but there's a lot of other portions that are the township, under township jurisdiction. I think they're all posted. City of Joliet has no jurisdiction on Sharp Road because we have an
But
over there.
the city portion of Bridge goes in to the township portion of Bridge.
Correct.
But they don't have a sign right there. And they've got probably about a 45 feet wide road there they can turn into.
Right.
When they get to the Elwood part of it, it goes down to 16 feet. When they get to Sharp Road, they can't make the turn.
Well, Scott's with Public Works, and I know we had a meeting with the homeowners. Centerpoint does a somewhat regular meeting with the residents down there, and we had one back in November, early November, if I remember correctly. And I know that the Public Works guys worked on the installation of a lot of no truck signs down around, I don't think there was any on Millsdale. I think it was on Schweitzer at 53, and I think it was Brandon at Schweitzer, and I think...
There is no sign or no weight limit sign at Brandon and Schweitzer. You've got a no truck sign over at 53 in Schweitzer.
Yeah. I mean, you could talk to our Scott, or he could put you in touch with our traffic engineer, and they could take all your concerns under advisement and
Why shouldn't the city council be looking into this? I mean, you guys bought Centerpoint out there, right or wrong. You guys approved it.
You're right, we did. But also Centerpoint was there 10 years before they came to Joliet down in Elwood.
I've been there for 42 years.
I know, well, then you know that, then you
So
know that.
I know how it was.
Then you know the BNSF yard in Elwood came 10 years before the AP.
You're right, and they're partially to blame too for the truck traffic on 53, because they're supposed to be taking out Baseline Road over to I-55 too, and they don't do it.
Right. Well, actually, what they ended up doing in concert with IDOT, and one of the things that we fought is they actually declared Walter Strawn and Route 53 all the way up to I-80 is a container road, on a specialized container hauling road, and we opposed that, and it went through. IDOT ended up passing it. So as you know, Elwood acknowledges that their truck route out is Walter Strawn to Route 53.
You're right, but after they had that truck blocking that drive over there where the train had to come to a stop, the people from the railroad decided that they may want to close 7 tracks down.
Yeah, I don't know that that's going to happen, but
Jim, is there any way that we could contact, like, the chief of police?
they're down
And
there.
if there's any area there that we can do an enforcement,
Yeah,
okay?
we do that, you know, and I'm down there.
It would be
at
good
least-
for allocation of the funds if there's trucking violations.
I'm down there at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, and almost all the time I'm down there, I'll run into the Joliet officer that's in charge of the truck detail.
Okay.
And we'll talk, and he's down there on a fairly regular basis. I know that Don Cars is down there. I see him down there doing enforcement on a fairly
Very
regular
efficient
basis.
officer.
I see the county down there all the time on
The
53.
county and then even the state of Illinois. The interesting thing, though, is that my dad worked at Olin for 38 years, and I know that Laraway Road was the Olin truck route, always has been the truck route. And right now, the landfill over there sees a lot of the dump truck, 18-wheel dump trucks that go in there, probably more than the container trucks do. And so that was a recognized truck route 50, 60 years ago. And so there's not much we can do about that, but like I say, that I do know that there's enforcement, and I know, on all parts of the city, if you ask the residents that say there's not enough police protection, there should be more enforcement. And there's enforcement out there. Rick,
Yeah.
you've been on the force, you know that
Oh, yeah.
that they're doing the best they can within, they'll respond to the complaints as they see them. And like I say, I think when we put the no truck signs up on some of those roads, I think it curtailed a lot of that truck use. But like I say, it's part of the problem is we've got semis going every which way. But quite honestly, Centerpoint really, they're under a lot of pressure to remove the in gate and the out gate at the Union Pacific yard. Right now, the only way you can get in those gates are from the south, and that was done by design where all the trucks, to make it for ease of operation, ease of movement, they have to come from the south off of Arsenal Road, Baseline Road to I-55 and then go back out the same way. And the ones that take a different route have to go way out of their way to get back to line their truck up to get in the gates. And there's a lot of people that said, well, that's making things worse. Can't you take it down? Can't you do anything? But to Centerpoint's credit, they flatly refuse to do that. They want to keep it the way it was originally designed. And quite honestly, it's to try to get the trucks back off to I-55 as quickly as possible, the shortest route.
And maybe they can look into putting three-way stop over at Brandon and Laraway where the old fella got killed last year. Because if you're at Brandon at that stop sign and you go onto Laraway, going east, when them trucks are coming around, you can't tell if they're on the turn lane or not. Because they're not doing 45, they're doing about 60 when they're coming through there.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you can look into this.
Okay.
Jim,
And
Mr. Chairman, do you live in the city?
No, I live in unincorporated Elwood.
He's got a lot of questions there, and I think maybe you ought to take the minutes and take a look at them and see what you can do with, whatever we can do with whatever he's got that makes sense, that's within our jurisdiction.
Right.
We should do, whatever it is.
Yeah, and we did, like I said, as a result of that meeting we had in November, there's a lot of initiatives that Public Works took on, and the police department as well. And like I say, they'll, Scott will take this back to Russ Lubosh, the traffic engineer, and Jim Triz, and we'll see if there's more that we could do.
any other comments or questions from the audience?
I'm Kathy Block. I live at 23815 State Route 53, Elwood, which is in Joliet. And everything he said to you is not only true, but on I-53 between Millsdale and Sharp, my neighbor in 10 minutes counted 206 trucks pass there. That does not include the funeral cortèges. That does not include, it's a hugely traveled place. And it's really, everything he says needs to be done, at least.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Keith Landovitz, 23525 South Vetter Road, Elwood. So I have a couple of questions and comments. First, a couple of technicalities. Am I correct in understanding that the parcel in question is subcategory C, the industrial park category of the IT zoning?
Our expert, that would be Jim Torrey, would know that answer, went home sick today. So Clayton, I don't know if, there's Clayton at, do you know?
I believe it is all category C.
Okay.
Okay, great, thank you. And then I think the other minor technical point, I think the petitioner's application correctly noted that the adjacent land use on the west is agricultural residential. And I do commend Mr. Gray, the petitioner, for noting the residential component, which I think is important. But I believe the staff report classified the adjacent property to the west as IT. So I would like to make sure that that's corrected. And that's not just for the sake of being correct, but it's because I think the adjacency to residential districts is material with respect to zoning and pollution control board regulations concerning noise abatement. So just want to clarify that. So then, just my concerns generally are just about light and noise. I think concerning light, the zoning ordinance and the work done on that IT land use classification, I think, does a very nice job of addressing the light issues. So I think my only comments in regard to the light are, first, I would certainly be grateful as a courtesy if I were afforded opportunity to review the photometric plan before the construction begins. And then second, I do appreciate, I don't think this is specified. I know it's not specified in the zoning ordinance. I don't think it's in any applicable standards, but the fact that all the construction so far has not used high-pressure sodium lighting, I think has been very helpful in avoiding light nuisance. So I do hope that that will continue. So I just would pass those comments on to the responsible engineers. Sound or noise is a bigger concern, I think, because the zoning ordinance really doesn't address that very well. It pretty much, I think, defers to the State Pollution Control Board standards. There's a bit of language, I think, around subcategory D concerning acoustic barriers and noise abatement, and certainly, of course, for subcategory A, which has all the heavy berms, which I think is intended partly for aesthetics and partly for noise abatement, but there's really nothing particularly in the subcategory C. The concern I have if you look at the Pollution Control Board regs, they recognize, apart from just the loudness of the sound, or what they would call sound pressure, which is just loudness, they recognize two types of sounds that are considered particular nuisances and are subject to additional regulation. They have what are called highly impulsive sounds, which is something like a loud bang, that's like an explosion type of thing. And that's not an issue, of course, for the subcategory C. But there's also something called it's a prominent tone, or a prominent distinctive tone. But they're referring to something like the beep, beep, beep of trucks backing up. And that's something we hear all the time in our area. We're hearing it from warehouses or distribution centers that are 2-3 miles away from us now. So now that something is going to be built that's much closer to us, because we are, in fact, right adjacent to this parcel, I am concerned about noise abatement and just making sure that sufficient noise abatement measures are taken. Even though, particularly for that subcategory C, the zoning ordinance may not specifically call for those barriers, I would hope that some acoustic barriers are part of the design here. I would also add, I think that the best acoustic barrier, and I do think this is part of the plan, but I'd like to confirm it, is leaving intact the woods that are in Lot 37. I think that's mostly floodplain, so I don't think anything's going to be built there. But certainly leaving intact all the existing wooded areas would be a good first measure towards sufficient noise abatement. But I think additional measures are warranted given the adjacency to a residential district and the type of this distinctive sound that's quite disturbing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, let me just, I don't want to address it at length here, but I echo Mr. Gutierrez's and Ms. Block's comments about the truck traffic. I don't think that's a plan commission issue, but it's sad because I think the planning around traffic control for this development was actually superb. And if the plan were actually being followed, I think a lot of people's lives would be much better. So I think it's a shame that we haven't yet found the magic formula to bring that plan into force. I do note, further to some of Mr. Holler's comments, there have been occasional meetings with the area residents, and for the record and the benefit of my neighbors attending, the next one is on March 24th. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Where's the meeting at?
Stone City Post, usually,
That's correct.
and they're usually like a 6:30 start time.
Thank you.
Any other comments and questions? Hearing none, then a motion is in order for P-2-14.
So moved. I will second with the proviso that we at least look at in the notes what these gentlemen had to say and ladies had to say, and try to react to them in a satisfactory fashion. Second.
Call the roll.
Mr. D'Amico?
Aye.
Ms. DeAndre?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Shatina?
Aye.
Mr. Cox?
Aye.
Mr. Strong?
Aye.
Okay, item up next is P3-14. That's the reapproval of our preliminary plat for the Joliet Logistics Park subdivision for an additional 3-year period, and this was formerly called the Route 53 Industrial Park subdivision. The applicant in this matter is Route 53 Land LLC by Veris Partners LLC. The status of the applicant is they are the developers. The owner is Route 53 Land LLC. The requested action is the reapproval of a preliminary plat, and the purpose is to develop 6 industrial lots. It has an I-1 light industrial zoning district. Its location is Route 53 in Millsdale. This would be all on the east side of Route 53. Size of the property in question is 233.37 acres, and it's currently undeveloped land. Surrounding land use and zoning to the north is the Route 66 Speedway, which has an I-1 zoning district. To the south is undeveloped with a combination of B3 and I-1. To the east is industrial with I-2 city. To the west is residential, R1 within the city, and A1 county agricultural. For site history, the mayor and the council approved the preliminary plat in October of 2007. The final plat in the recording plat for Phase 1 in August 2008. Phase 1 was never recorded. The mayor and the council approved a variance that allowed a 1-year extension on the preliminary plat back in December of 2009, and a reapproval of the preliminary plat for an additional 3 years in January of 2011. Under special information, the effective period of the preliminary plat for Joliet Logistics Park subdivision is ending, and the petitioner wishes to extend it for another 3-year period. According to the petitioner, subsequent subdivision phases have not been recorded and developed due to unsuccessful marketing attempts of the site by the developer. The past extensions were requested by the petitioner in order to allow time to receive IDOT approval for a traffic study for intersection improvements at Millsdale and Route 53, which was received in the 4th quarter of 2010. The proposed development and the layout will remain the same as to what was originally approved, which proposed the creation of 6 industrial lots on the 233 acres. Public improvements included a 5-foot sidewalk along Route 53, as well as a traffic signal at Millsdale and Route 53. The full width of Millsdale Road will be built as part of this development from Route 53 to the proposed cul-de-sac entryway for Lot 3. All other public improvements will be provided for as per the subdivision regulations and the Public Works and Utilities Departments. The Community Design Review Board met, and the minutes from their meeting on February 6th are attached, and that concludes the staff report.
Thank you. Could we have the petitioner on this item, please?
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Martin, 15 West Jefferson. I'm the attorney for the petitioner at Veris Partners.
Anything to add to staff's report?
Not really. We've been approved twice for the same preliminary plat. We're just asking for another extension so that we can market the property. My client, due to the economy and the nature of these lots, has been unable to successfully sell them. However, my client is still in business, you know, given the bad economy, and still an industrial developer, and still wishes to go forward with the development. If there's any questions
from the commission?
Yeah, what tax rate are they being taxed at now? And are taxes being paid on this now?
Yeah, there is a levy for the city. I did not review the tax bills before I came in, but I mean, I presume the property's being farmed, so it's probably being assessed as farm.
Right.
Do you know,
But
Jim?
the city
Yeah,
taxing bodies.
it would be a farm agricultural tax rate. Just because it's annexed in, just because it was zoned for an industrial development, doesn't change its assessment as long as it's being continuously farmed. At the time of development, any portion of it then would get reassessed at a new and higher value. So right now, as we sit, I would assume that it's still got the same agricultural tax rate that it had before. The only difference is that then the city's portion of the tax, which is about 15% higher than maybe unincorporated Will County farm taxes that would be added on top of that.
But the taxing bodies for the city and the fire, all that are on it.
Yes.
Okay.
Jim, where's the sewer and water on that one?
Sewer, I'm not sure. Water, I know, comes down Route 53 on that side of the street. I think it's on the west side of the street. Sewer,
On the east side, you mean?
sewers. Oh, that's right, down there, it jogged over, so there is sewer on the west side, on the west side. So water on the east, sewer on the
Oh,
west.
that's how it is? Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know that we've ever brought it into any of the parcels back off to the east of 53. I don't think we have. They have the utility plan all figured out. That was done as part of the Southside Comprehensive Plan. So they know where they go. We know how this property will be serviced. But until there's development that's going to bring it in over at their expense, it hasn't been established yet.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Martin, has there been any interest generated in the property?
As to the marketing efforts, we're not, what should I say, an industrial center that's kind of tied to Center Point. Our access is 53. And so it's a different market, it's a different buyer. And because there are a lot of, or there were a lot of available lots of similar type industrial subdivisions in the Chicago region, our market was somewhat limited. That market has gotten a lot better now. So there are inquiries, but there has not been, nothing has gone to contract. If there was, I would have been more than likely involved in the contract.
Thank you.
Jim, is that right? This is zoned I-1,
Correct.
so I'm going to assume there's no outside storage.
No, I-1 does allow outside storage. It needs to be neat and orderly. So you could store raw materials, you could store equipment, you could store finished product out there. It has to be screened, it has to be neat and orderly.
But it's also not a zoning request. It's already zoned I-1. We're just
Correct.
seeking a preliminary plat approval.
Correct, yeah, and the zoning was granted at the time of annexation.
No, initially it was residential.
Oh, that's
and
right.
we were sued
That's right.
by
that's right.
the high school district.
That's right.
And as part of the settlement of the lawsuit,
I
we
forgot about
changed
that.
the zoning to industrial.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions?
Thank you, Ms. Black.
I have a comment.
Please.
My name is Kathy Block. My farm is where it says area in question. On Route 53, 23815, State Route 53, Elwood, which is in the city of Joliet. At the time this was all done, we owned back to the back another acres, and that was all zoned to be residential. And about that time, it is true, we got sued by Joliet High School District because they were concerned about the number of students. And at that time, there was talk about making Millsdale a road that went quite some distance. And then the next thing, after we signed the pre-annexation with Joliet, suddenly Pasquinelli goes bankrupt, and we now have an industrial thing. As I said in my earlier comments, my neighbor across the street counted over 200 trucks in a 10-minute period on Route 53. This did not count the funeral cortèges. This did not count individual vehicles. This counted just the trucks. And I have observed that various industrial distribution centers have gone up on Route 53 and on Laraway and have remained remarkably empty. And I protest the extension. They've had years to do this. Nothing has happened. It's going to make things worse. It's bad enough already. And I would protest. Ask that you vote no.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Getting back to what Kathy said about all the empty lots, you've got Laraway Crossings, it's got two warehouses on it. They own the property from 53 all the way to Rowell Avenue. All that was taken out of farmland. Now, basically, they got a portion of it is still farm, but the rest of it is lost. You've got Joliet Crossings, that's right behind my house. They built the biggest warehouse over there, rented out for 2 months. Hasn't been rented out, hasn't been sold. Another warehouse went up right in front. That one's being used. There's one to the north that's being used. Now, getting back to Joliet here, Joliet has not had final inspections on anything up along 53. You can do a drive-by, and if somebody tells me that they've had a final, then that inspector should be fired. The ponds behind my house never got rocked, so the safety ledges are gone now, because you got like 15 feet of bank that's washed in there. Now you don't have retention anymore. I've got a berm behind my house, 17 foot tall, that was never in any of the plans, but it was an easy way to get rid of dirt. No storm sewer on my side of the berm. It just runs off into the yard. I've gone to meetings before about it, and nothing ever gets done. Is that the way Joliet does business?
Do you ever talk to your own representatives, the county as well as township?
They tell me this is city.
No. City, you live outside the city.
Right, but the
you
properties are in the county.
And you have representation in the township and the county. Have you ever talked to those board members?
I've been to board meetings for Will County and everything and complained. Nothing gets done. It's just like the leaf burning issue. One person complains about leaf burning, and everyone wants to get the bandwagon. Hey, let's stop leaf burning everywhere.
I agree with them. They should stop it.
I disagree with you.
Well, we disagree.
When the garbage pickup starts picking up your leaves and your grass in the late fall, come down some of our roads and see how many bags of leaves and how many bags of grass do we have out there. And that's because they don't have any place to put them. Look at your own area right here, the cathedral area. Look at your parkways. They're full of leaves and everything. What do you say? That's beauty?
I shouldn't let them burn. Shouldn't let them burn that stuff.
And I disagree with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Is there a limit on how many times they can extend the plat? Or
No, and as a matter of fact, it's kind of a peculiar situation in that they're asking us to extend this for 3 more years to keep all of the plat requirements that were in effect at the time, to carry those forward. The alternative to doing that is if they didn't request this, let the plat lapse, then they would, when they get ready to re-preliminary it and then file and record the new units, they would have to follow the new rules, whatever they would be in effect at the time when that happens. I could tell you that we aren't promulgating any rule changes. I can't think of anything where something would be more stringent than it is now. We don't have anything that we've talked about from, pardon me? The review fee would be one thing that's new to this, but so really what I think they want to do is to not require, a new set of plats that they could still market and say, here's the plan that's in effect, and we're okay with that. Staff's okay with that. We don't, like I say, we don't see any fee changes or any major changes to stormwater detention requirements or road width requirements or any of those sorts of things that we're even considering. So, I think just for them, they'd like the surety that then they could go very quickly if they did find a buyer to final plat and record plat, not have to go through this extra step. So I think it would give them a little bit more flexibility if they do find a buyer. And I got to tell you that in my experience working in economic development, we very often find a user that says, I'll buy this plot of ground if I can get in the ground very quickly. We need to be in the ground within 8 months. And if the contractor can build that fast and you can, lessen the requirements or, or speed up the process, we'll come to your city. And if not, we'll have to go look elsewhere. And so we've been pretty good about that, about trying to work real hard to get, the jobs for construction and also the permanent jobs thereafter. So we do try to get these if we can get them.
thank you.
Could I add something just briefly?
Sure.
In addition to that, it's preliminary plat approval. So whoever purchases any of the lots will have to come in for final plat approval. There is a caveat to what he said. The property is subject to an annexation agreement. So the terms of the annexation agreement may very well limit some of what, has been related by Mr. Haller. I don't know specifically if, there is. I know that after having talked to Rudiger and Tonelli, who is the engineers on the plan, there are no substantial differences between your preliminary plat requirements now and the plat that we're asking to extend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, then a motion's in order for P-3-14.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Ms. DeAndre?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Shatina?
Aye.
Mr. Cox?
Aye.
Mr. D'Amico?
Aye.
Mr. Strong?
Aye.
All right, that's the majority of our business taken care of. Now what we have is nothing under study session. I should apologize to you that I know at the last meeting you requested that we have a discussion about the downtown plan and that whole process. And we've had a little bit of a minor setback that's going to cause us to do that at next month's meeting. We had hoped to have it on this month's meeting, so we'll have Kendall Jackson will make a presentation on where we're at with hiring the downtown planner and what the plan will entitle at next month's meeting when we do that. Next would be the approval of the minutes from the meeting of January the 16th, and do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
And then do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned, and I also, just as an aside, we do have, I think, one item on the agenda for next month, or was it two? One item on the, only one item on the agenda that was in before the filing deadline. And one of the interesting things that we think is going on, there's signs that the economy's getting better, and we expected a lot more activity on both Zoning Board of Appeals and Plan Commission, but we believe that the bad weather has kept a lot of people away from proposing projects because I think they realize that there's going to be delay in getting them in the ground. That's just a gut feeling that we have, and we're kind of thinking that maybe come March filing deadline that we'll have a lot of stuff for April and May, all this pent-up stuff that I don't even think people were venturing out of their houses or offices the past couple of months. So so although we're only going to have one thing next month, I think it's going to